I'm just struggling to like continue life on a day-to-day, like on a day-to-day, because not necessarily I have depression or anything. It's just because like life has been hard for me, and I've experienced so many traumatic things, and sometimes it's just challenging to get up and keep going. I think that we need to just recognize, or sometimes it could be just, I am on my menstrual and these cramps are like out of this world, and that is in the DSM.
Yeah.
And some people don't know that there is a V code.
DSM.
Yes, there are V codes in the back of the DSM that says like transition, like what you're going through, environmental issues. So there's this thing called the biopsychosocial assessment, and that's what all of our social workers, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, that's what we use to gather information. And if we gather information where you're telling me that you are on the verge of homelessness, you are you grew up without parents or whatever, I am going to start to say like, let's start like going in and digging into where like what other issues are coming up. Because to me, like, I mean, I'm a psychodynamic perspective, and psychodynamic is basically stating that like things that happen in your past is going to impact your future.
Big facts.
And so I think from that theoretical orientation, and I love the biopsychosocial because it's giving me all of your history. I love doing genograms because it gives me all of your history. So I just want us to think about mental illness on a greater scale, instead of just like schizophrenia and bipolar and this, like it's everything. There's eating disorders, there's adjustment periods, there's, you know, panic disorders, anxiety attack, like those are all in the DSM, and those things can impact you. And sometimes like an anxiety attack can be like your heart racing, or it could be just, you know, like you're nervous and you feel pressure, and like, you know, it can be all these things, these symptoms that we don't necessarily always talk about.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into Twitter.
Okay, go ahead. I'm not a real big Twitter person.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'll tell you about what's being said on Twitter.
Okay.
All right, so Twitter is a broad space. Mm-hmm. It's looking to skinny dip into a pool and then realize you jumped into an ocean with nothing. Mm. And, you know, mental health is now, it's a hot topic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Unhappy.
who are undereducated, and a lot of people who are educated, but their voices aren't being heard. Mm-hmm. How does one go about spreading the message of mental health and educating people on that? If you made a suggestion, like let's say your suggestion affected the world tomorrow, what would it be?
Oh, exactly what I said about the federal law. Mm-hmm. That would be. I hope you all hear me and understand that we need to make mental health wellness check-ins every quarter. And if we can start there in the federal law, I think that it will bridge down and like cause this effect to where like FD12 regulations will change, and Medicaid and insurance would change, and then like access to healthcare on a larger scale would change, and then biases would change. Because there is this thing where it comes to cultural competency where even myself, because of stereotypes and the way that our brains have been constructed through society, we all think a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? I can look at you and say, oh, this black man, he's tall, he's big, I'm intimidated. They can look at me and say, this black girl, before I open my mouth and they understand my name is Christian, they're probably like, who is this black girl coming in here? Right?
Yeah.
Just to share, my name is Christian Howard, and I had a clinical supervisor tell me, when I first got your resume, I thought you were a white male, and that's why I called you. He said, when you came into my office, and then some people even say when they hear me over the phone, they think I'm a white girl. And when I come into their office, they're like, oh shit, she's black. I am. But your mind has been constructed to think that this individual should be this way. And so I feel like...
give people chances also.
Exactly. And so I think that my thing would be, let's start deconstructing all of this. The whole, like, how we think of black and brown people and everything else, like, that would be where I think Twitter can start. And just normal lay people, honestly, tell your own story. Share your stories about who you are and how you had challenges of being identified, being heard, or whatever you're going through. I say share it, because when you normalize those type of things, then everybody is like in a better state to kind of address it. I think a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like, I'm already being talked about, or this person gonna say this, and so they never address these issues when they're so normal. Like we probably all have panic attacks in here, an anxiety attack. The real definition of a disorder says when it's prolonged. It has to be a duration of time of you experiencing these symptoms. But if you only experience it one time, then yes, we all have this before. PTSD, we've all probably experienced it. But it's just about that duration piece. When it really impacts your daily functioning, that's when it becomes a mental illness. And so that is what I think that we should do. Just start sharing these things so it can become normal, and people will start opening up more. Like even I think the Black community, because that is kind of what I know, like sharing the fact that yes, our older generation, we messed up and said pray about it, and don't tell anybody about your business. Don't tell anybody about your business because everything stays in this house. But that was a flaw in our system. Yeah. Because you should open up and talk. And I think a lot of these issues wouldn't happen, right? Because like you said, you were trying to figure out who do you go to for help on your situation with your ex-partner. And to be honest, why couldn't you go to like your mom or dad or their mom or their dad or their immediate family? Like why couldn't we?
Oh, we did.
But they didn't listen.
No, they were helpless. Also. Mm-hmm. So it's like a full effort of damn, this actually did happen around Valentine's Day when everything hit the fan.
How are you? Sorry.
Hurt. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.